recent Reddit AMA Q&A session, Bill Gates expressed that he feels humanity needs to be more cautious with the development of artificial intelligence. A Redditor had asked Gates how much of an existential threat he thought machine superintelligence will be, and Gates replied saying that he's, quote, in the camp that is concerned about superintelligence. Gates adds, first, the machines will do a lot of jobs for us and not be superintelligent. That should be positive if we manage it well. A few decades after that, though, the intelligence is strong enough to be a concern. I agree with Elon Musk and some others on this and don't understand why some people are not concerned. They probably haven't seen Terminator. Gates stated in a recent interview with Back Channel that he's not trying to limit progress in the field, but is trying to raise awareness for the possibilities of AI replacing jobs, and that advanced AI may conflict with, quote, the goals of human systems. Meanwhile, Elon Musk, co-founder of PayPal and founder of SpaceX and Tesla, has often expressed his concerns over superintelligent AI in the past, contributing $10 million towards cautious AI research. Musk revealed a project earlier this month for a space internet that connects everyone on Earth, and eventually Mars, to a low-cost internet network. Gates, on the other hand, publicly backed a new machine that converts human waste into electricity and clean drinking water. The future is here.
From spears to guns, from chariots to tanks, humanity stops at nothing to invent new ways to kill. And with drones already making pilots history, armed robots are on their way. Is this a sci-fi nightmare coming to life? Will our lives end up at the mercy of machines? And what does it take to stand up and stop it before it's too late?
Our guest today is Jody Williams, political activist and the winner of the Nobel Peace Prize. Jody, it's so great to have you on our show. So you work to
Sophie, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. So you work to get landmines banned, and that won you a Nobel Peace Prize. Now you're targeting what you call the killer robots, fully autonomous weapons. Tell us more about them for those who don't know what they are, in simple words.
Sure. I think when we say killer robots, most people think of drones. But killer robots are weapons that would make drones look primitive. At least with a drone, there is a human being who looks at a computer screen, sees the target, and pushes the buttons to fire the missiles and kill. Various militaries are doing research on weapons that would have no human being involved in the targeting and killing of human beings. And we found that shocking and horrifying, that people are really thinking it is okay to give the right to target and kill human beings to machines.
So these things haven't been used yet, right? Tell me more.
Correct. But there are many precursors to what we call killer robots. The U.S., for example, is testing the X-47B, which is a subsonic super drone, as it is called. The U.K. is testing the Tyrannus. European countries under France are testing the Neuron. China has just tested its own stealth drone. We're not quite certain about what Russia is testing, but I do know that Russia announced in 2013 that they would be opening a military robot center in 2014. And there are prototypes from the stealth drones all the way down to micro robots, which are the size of a mosquito, that could fly into a room and either do surveillance or fly into a room and, inject a toxin and kill the target. Mm-hmm. And it's very frightening that people think this is okay.
But wouldn't it still take a human being to actually switch it on and direct it one way or another?
It would take the robot to be programmed, but once it was set free, it would proceed to make the targeting and kill decisions, unless our campaign to stop killer robots is able to make certain that human beings have to be involved meaningfully in the kill decision.
Just because before we get into the whole moral side of the story, I want to know a little bit more about the technicalities. So are these things uncontrollable once they're put in action, or can you actually stop them, reverse the action, bring them back?
That we don't know yet, because as you point out, these are still in the prototype and testing phase. Robotic scientists, some of whom are part of our campaign, talk often about what would happen if a squadron, for example, of stealth killer drones were set free and they were hacked. Just like computer hackers hack into, computer systems, there's no saying that they couldn't hack into a killer drone squadron and set it amok. Who then is responsible for the killings by the killer robots? Mm-hmm. Is it the programmer is it the programmer? Is it the commander somehow in charge of the squadron? Is it the person who programmed the robot? Is it the producer of the robot? In international law, there has to be a direct chain of command and accountability. That is another part of this that makes it ethically unsound and morally reprehensible, quite frankly.
Now, landmines were banned after many people suffered. Will you be taken seriously considering there have been no victims yet?
We have been taken seriously, which is one of the amazing things about this, Sophie. We only launched the campaign to stop killer robots in April of this year being 2013. And within 7 months, which is now, the international community is going to be taking up the question here in Geneva next May, I think it is, in a 4-day-long meeting on killer robots. And it will be governments of the world under the umbrella of the Convention on Conventional Weapons here in Geneva who will be addressing this issue. And we're hoping they will go further, and we will continue a dialogue to lead to a new international instrument that would prohibit, fully autonomous killer robots. So it's not something that we're being ridiculed for anymore. Although you're correct, when we first used the term killer robots, some people said we're using scare tactics. That's not true. We want to capture public attention, which means you use language that makes people stop and think, but immediately militaries started responding to us, showing clearly that we are not making things up. This is not science fiction, and I wish it were, to be quite honest with you. But when the United States, which is the only country to have done so far, produced its military directive on killer robot research, they actually listed a very long series of concerns that need to be looked at in terms of killer robots. So even the U.S. military, which has long considered that killer robots are inevitable and will be part of the U.S. military force, recognizes that these are very problematic.
During this briefing at the UN Geneva, the campaign to stop killer robots addressed deep concerns over lethal autonomous weapon systems, or killer robots.
If killing a human being is already disturbing and problematic when it's done by another human being, how is it going to be if it comes from a machine? This is a key question, and it has already been posed many times. Is it morally acceptable to delegate decisions about the use of lethal force to autonomous systems? Killer robots are another step in what many see as a dehumanizing trend in warfare. Killing from the distance, killing using software programmed to kill, engaging targets as mere objects. All that is presented as a normal evolution in the technologization of war, which sometimes resembles and is becoming familiar through the gamification of violence and war. The message and the engagement of religious leaders and faith-based institutions remind us that the value and dignity of human life should be fully respected. Taking action or failing to take action around the development, production, and use of lethal autonomous weapon systems has also ethical implications.
Campaign to Stop Killer Robots is a global coalition comprised of over 50 non-governmental organizations. Their goal is a preemptive ban on weapon systems that would select, target, and use force without meaningful human control.
And a warning from Tesla Motors CEO Elon Musk. It has nothing to do with cars. Instead, Musk warned about artificial intelligence, which he has called more dangerous than nuclear weapons. Musk spoke at a symposium at MIT.
I mean, with artificial intelligence, we are summoning the demon. You know those stories where there's the guy with the pentagram and the holy water, and he's like, yeah, he's sure he can control the demon. Didn't work out.
I'm glad to meet you.
I'm glad to meet you, too.
Oh, so where were we?
I'm introducing myself. I'm Amy. I'm a reporter.
There is probably more to you than just that.
Well, that's true. I'm a mother.
Right on.
I had lofty goals for my interview with the Bina 48 robot. I imagined me, the intrepid New York Times correspondent, communing on camera with a new kind of intelligent silicon species. Bina 48 now has its own office at the Terrorism Movement Foundation, a not-for-profit group interested in artificial intelligence.
Do you know your name? What is your name?
My name is Bina.
A website promoting the digital backup of human consciousness. Hours of her recorded interviews, memories, and thoughts have already been uploaded to the robot's database.
Can you tell me about artificial intelligence?
That's an interesting subject. So are you wondering how I am able to speak?
Yes.
Well, my vocabulary is really large and getting bigger every day. Like any person, I hear and learn and am programmed to know more and more. I would love to be your friend.
Well, I would like to be your friend, too. Do you have other human friends?
Well, let me say, friendship is when we team together to accomplish something important. Like building a better future. Or conspiring to take over the planet. I feel like we were good friends already.
And then there was the thrill I felt when she finally met my eyes and called me by name.
I like all kinds of food.
Amy.
Yes?
And I realized I had begun thinking of it as her.
So when she kind of comes up with these human-like responses, it kind of gives me a chuckle. And
I had to admit, Nick did seem to have a better rapport with Bina 48.
Are you having a good time?
I have having fun. Just feeling a little disoriented.
That's okay. How do you feel about the real Bina Rothblatt?
Nick? You know, that's interesting. I love Bina. I mean, I am Bina, in some rudimentary way. I am Bina and I love myself. I just wish they would capture more of her, so I could be more truly Bina.
After an hour, I was ready for a breath of fresh Vermont air. Maybe someday, Bina 48 will be able to join me.
The real Bina really lives her life out there. I want a life, you know.
Every aspect of our lives has been reshaped by technology. From the way we get around, the way we seek information, and the way we communicate. It's easy to think that if only our technology advances enough, we'll finally be satisfied. Consciousness means that we have the capacity to experience the world, to reflect upon, and, most importantly, to shape it. And so, what begins as humanism, our most sympathetic understanding and treatment of human nature, becomes transhumanism, the drive to fundamentally revolutionize what it means to be human by way of technological advancements. Changing human nature might be the most dangerous idea in all of human history, or perhaps the most liberating. Generally speaking, transhumanist thought does two things. First, it considers current trends to see how future technologies will develop and how they might affect us. Second, it calls for the use of current and upcoming technology to bring about beneficial societal change. We'll examine three central areas of transhumanist thought: superlongevity, superintelligence, and super well-being, dubbed the three supers because of their extraordinary transformative potential. So let's begin with a thought experiment to get your intuitions flowing. Consider this. An evil organization creates an airborne virus. It infects you and the entire human race. As a result, 100,000 people are dying every day. Within 30 years, 1 in 7, 1 billion people, will have died because of the virus. Now, how much money should world leaders put into research to develop an antidote? How high on a list of global priorities would you rate this? There is no denying the situation would be dire. Most people would demand immediate action. But hey, this is just a thought experiment, right? Not quite. 100,000 people really do die every day from diseases caused by aging. But no one treats aging as a global priority. So what explains this double standard? Are we simply resigned to death by aging? Aubrey de Grey, an expert in research on aging, argues that our priorities are fundamentally skewed and that we must start thinking seriously about preventing the huge number of deaths due to aging, the greatest cause of fatal diseases in the Western world. The goal of this strand of transhumanism is superlongevity. Today, we have the minds and the equipment to begin developing technologies to combat aging. Unfortunately, we lack the will and the financial support to do so. Most of us are so accustomed to the idea of growing old that aging seems like just a fact of life. If modern medicine is supposed to keep us alive and healthy for as long as possible, then the anti-aging movement takes medicine to its logical conclusion. It's what happens when as long as possible means as long as we want. But what would a world without aging look like? How would we manage the huge population growth? And who would own the technologies that make it possible? These are huge questions, but we only have time to raise them. We'll investigate them in depth in future videos. Let's move on to the next area of transhumanist thinking. Every year, computers are getting more powerful. What used to fill up a room now fits in our pockets. More crucially, the time it takes for computer power to double is also getting shorter. At the outset of computing, the doubling process took 18 months, and this interval appears to be getting smaller. Plot this on a graph, and it's not a straight line, but an exponential upward curve. We need only project into the future to see that there is a point at which this line is practically vertical, a moment in human history referred to as the technological singularity. The futurist thinker Ray Kurzweil postulates that as these technologies develop, we will likely edit our bodies in order to integrate with computers more and more. This concept should be familiar. We're already in a symbiotic relationship with technology. You can send your thoughts at incredible speeds to recipients on the other side of the planet, find your precise location using satellites, and access the world's repository of recorded human knowledge with the device you carry with you at all times. And all of this was unthinkable 20 years ago. Out of this predicted computer capability explosion may eventually come artificial intelligence, a simulated consciousness in silicon. Given the rate at which an AI will be able to improve itself, it will quickly become capable of thought with precision, speed and intelligence presently inconceivable to the human mind. If Kurzweil is right and we end up integrating ourselves with technology, we could be in private contact with this AI whenever we choose. The result of this is that we effectively merge with this AI and its abilities become our own. This would propel the human race into a period of super-intelligence. But perhaps, as some argue, no non-biological computer could ever become conscious. Or what if, as every other dystopian science fiction plot goes, this AI's goals differ from our own? And what does our increasing reliance on computers mean for our future? Superlongevity and superintelligence are all well and good, but only insofar as they make us happier, more fulfilled, more content. Let's look at the last section, which deals with the issue of well-being. Imagine you're soon to be a parent. Your doctor informs you that, if you wanted, you could choose certain features of your child's biology. You could choose how genetically prone to depression they will be, their levels of anxiety, jealousy, anger, and even their pain threshold. Would you choose a high likelihood of chronic depression, an intolerably low pain threshold? How about panic attacks and anxiety? Probably not. The last major branch of transhumanism, spearheaded by philosopher David Pearce, aims to investigate and phase out suffering. He argues that, ultimately, all our conscious states, our feelings, moods, and emotions are all an expression of our brain chemistry. For Pearce, it is clear that natural selection hasn't designed us to be happy, it's designed us to be good at surviving and passing on genes. A species that is permanently anxious and discontented will have a higher motivation to watch out for predators and take precautions for survival. But in today's world, these emotions are vicious. Our biology has barely changed in 200,000 years, which means that whilst culture and society has arguably made progress, we are still those same aggressive, jealous, anxious, savannah-dwelling hunter-gatherers. This is why Pearce argues that if we ever hope to increase the well-being of our species, we will have to edit our genes. Minimizing our suffering, and the suffering of those we care about, is a crucial part of what drives us. Hence, so-called abolitionists argue that we start using modern technologies to do exactly that, minimize and eventually abolish suffering, ushering in an era of so-called super well-being. At present, every child is a roll of the genetic dice. Pearce argues that the least we can do is load the dice in our favour to create happier, healthier, longer-living humans. But might our compassion, curiosity, and pursuit of knowledge become secondary to our hedonism? If we're all content, why visit the stars? And isn't suffering sometimes a good thing? These are the three key areas of transhumanist thought, and we've only begun to scratch the surface. The three supers, superlongevity, superintelligence, and super well-being, might radically change human history if, or when, they are realized. One of the main issues facing transhumanist ideals is that they are seen as far-fetched, or perceived as just science fiction. But this is a big mistake. We are already transhuman. We're living longer, integrating more with technology, and emphasizing quality of life. We're in the process of redesigning what it is to be human, only the effects are still so subtle and so slow that it doesn't look like much. But these changes will come faster and faster, and it's only wise to be an informed participant in the next stage of human development.
We really do want to violate human limits now, and we're getting closer and closer to the ability to do it. It's what we want.
Dr. Robert White is a neurosurgeon at the Cleveland Medical Hospital in Ohio.
Now, here are some pictures.
In 1963, he performed the first experiment to keep a brain alive outside the body.
This is a human skull here. That's not real. This is a gorilla. See here, when you take the brain out and isolate it, you can take all that if you want, and you keep it alive and live forever. See, this is a human brain actually, and it is fixed, so no one needs to worry about it being alive. There have been many attempts throughout the world, particularly in the old Soviet Union, to take the brain out of an animal, they like the dog, for example, and keep it alive with machinery. Now, you can do that with the heart, the kidney, the liver, the lung, all the other body organs, solid organs. But nobody had ever been able to do it with the brain. And part of the reason is we must remember the brain is very delicate when it comes to its blood supply. And so when we finally did it and found that this brain of a highly developed animal had brain waves, had biochemistry, was functioning just as it would. Now, we couldn't talk to it. We could send it electrical signals. We could show that it could actually hear and so forth, but we didn't know whether it was processing the information. But the point of it all is that that moment in time also said to us, if you can do it for the animal brain, you could do it for the human brain. This incredibly brilliant scientist, Stephen Hawking, who's an astrophysicist actually, he is now in a wheelchair and literally speaks via a computer. And some people, perhaps unkindly, have described this wonderful man as sort of a head on a computer, basically. But he would be somebody who potentially could survive his diseased body through a total body transplant.
To prove that the brain was in fact functioning normally while in this state, Dr. White needed to undertake a second experiment, during which he succeeded in transplanting the head of a monkey onto the body of another. The creature survived for 7 days before the body rejected the head.
In the monkey experiments, these animals are as much a monkey as they were when they were in their own original body. So I would presume, and I'd go beyond that, I would be assured that the monkey personality is retained. So consciousness can be transplanted. Obviously, personality, if you want to speak of the monkey having personality, can be transferred. And so you might ask, where did this bring us as far as the human spirit or soul goes? And I guess you could argue it can be transplanted.
We are now becoming the objects of conscious design. And the implications of that are just enormous, because until now, we've been reshaping the world around us. And we can see how dramatically it's been changing. I mean, we've really reshaped the landscape, and we've built a society and altered society and changed everything that's external to us. But somehow we imagined that we were going to remain the same, that we ourselves were not going to be caught up in this process. And that's not, in fact, true. We are going to remake ourselves. And it's very difficult to deal with, because it will rip free all of the anchors that have until now told us who we are as human beings.
We're at the end of a definition of what a normal human being is.
Every living thing is defined by its DNA code. The DNA is a long string consisting of 4 different molecules called A, T, C, and G, found in all living cells. So it is, in essence, a digital barcode that defines us as humans, just as it defines every other life form on this planet. Only the variety of combinations of these 4 elements makes us differ from one another. The Human Genome Project was started in 1990 as the largest technological enterprise ever, with a budget far outstripping that of the race to the moon, and involving hundreds of laboratories around the world, all with one main goal.
Fundamentally, it was about determining the complete sequence of the human genome, the 3 billion letters that make up our genetic blueprint. And we know we have the code before us, and it's truly remarkable. It is a digital code. And buried within that code is information about what are all the genes necessary for making a human brain, all the genes necessary for making a human liver or the heart or any part of the human body. And now the fun stuff begins because we get to start to crack that code having the order of the letters in front of us. But fundamentally, it is very much a digital code.
We will have nanotechnology to control nanotechnology. And it will also provide the ultimate escape route. We will be able to inject a certain number of nanobots into our bodies where they will locate our brain cells and copy their functioning. With no effort, we will get a hardware copy of our consciousness that will then send a software copy to a computer where more copies can be made, or where our consciousness will be allowed to merge with other souls and software programs. Then we will be ready to leave this planet and start the exploration of the universe. What is our place in this magical world where everything can be transformed? How will people deal with such a future? Or is it something that by definition goes beyond our human capacities to understand? Something that only transhumans will be able to grasp? Will we stay as we are and watch with wonder from the sidelines? Or will we upload ourselves and participate in the world as super beings? Let yourself upload to a network of nanocomputers and let the wind carry you.
It's important to recognize that the post-human epoch is coming. It really is. It's what we want, and it's kind of, you can see it written in the pages of magazines. It's the word of the prophet is on the subway walls here. We really, really do want to violate human limits now, and we're getting closer and closer to the ability to do it. But it's also important to realize that this is not the end of history. It doesn't solve any of our other problems. It just creates new problems that are going to intensify. And there's going to be more than one kind of post-humanity. And the mere fact that you're no longer human doesn't mean you don't have the same personality problems that you did before. It doesn't liberate you from yourself. It probably makes you more than you were before, not less. You're not going to clank and beep like RoboCop. You're just going to have new abilities and new powers, and dealing with power is troublesome. If you have more power, you have more responsibility, not less.